You know, there's something I've been thinking about lately. Something that might sound familiar to you. Have you ever noticed how a simple chat with an old friend can leave you feeling lighter, like the world suddenly got a little brighter? Or maybe you've had days where the house feels a bit too quiet, and you catch yourself wishing for a little more laughter, a little more connection. Well, you're not alone. In fact, science tells us that staying socially active after 70 isn't just about filling the hours. It's about nourishing your brain. That's right. Socializing does something truly remarkable as we age. It's like a gentle workout for your mind, keeping your memory sharper, your mood brighter, and even helping you feel more energized. But here's the thing. Life doesn't always make it easy to stay connected, does it? Friends move away, routines change, and sometimes it feels like the world is moving faster than we'd like. That's why today, I want to share 5 simple, joyful ways to stay connected, no matter your circumstances. These aren't complicated strategies or expensive hobbies. They're small, everyday habits that can weave more meaning into your life and keep your brain thriving. Let's start with the first one, because it's something you can do right from your favorite armchair. The first way: rekindle old connections. Now, I'm not talking about tracking down every person you've ever met, though if you want to, more power to you. I'm talking about those relationships that once brought you comfort. That cousin you used to swap recipes with, the neighbor who always made you laugh at the mailbox, even a long-lost friend from your working days. Here's the magic. Reaching out doesn't have to be a grand gesture. A short phone call, a handwritten note, or even a photo texted with a "remember this" can reignite a bond. My friend Martha, who's 78, told me she recently wrote a letter to her childhood pen pal, someone she hadn't spoken to in 50 years. Turns out, her pen pal had been thinking about her too. Now they exchange postcards every month, and Martha says it's like rediscovering a piece of herself. The second way? Find your third place. Now, that might sound like jargon, but stick with me. Your third place is simply somewhere that's not home and not work. A spot where you feel at ease, surrounded by people who share your interests. For some, that's a community center's coffee hour. For others, it's a library book club, a gardening group, or even a weekly chess game at the park. The key is to choose something that feels low pressure. You don't have to commit to every event. Just show up when you can. Take my neighbor, Frank. At 82, he started attending a weekly woodworking workshop at the local senior center. At first, he went just to pass the time. But now, he's built birdhouses for half the neighborhood, and he's got a whole new group of friends who swap stories and sawdust. And here's the beautiful part. These connections don't just warm your heart. They literally light up your brain. Studies show that social interaction boosts cognitive function, reduces stress, and even lowers the risk of conditions like dementia. It's like giving your mind a daily dose of vitality. Now, before we move on, let's talk about the third way: embracing technology on your own terms. I know. Technology can feel overwhelming. But hear me out. You don't need to master every app or gadget. Just find one tool that helps you bridge the distance. Maybe it's video calls with grandchildren. Maybe it's joining a Facebook group for vintage car enthusiasts. Or maybe it's as simple as sending voice messages instead of typing. My cousin Louise, who's 76, swore she'd never touch a smartphone. But her granddaughter set her up with a tablet, and now she's part of an online knitting circle. They meet via Zoom every Tuesday, and Louise says it's like having her old sewing circle back, just without the hassle of driving at night. The point is, technology isn't about keeping up with the times. It's about keeping up with the people who matter. Start small. Ask a loved one to show you the ropes. And remember, it's okay to laugh at the hiccups along the way. So far, we've talked about reconnecting with the past, finding your community, and dipping a toe into technology. But there are still two more ways to explore. Simple, heartfelt strategies that can turn isolation into inspiration. Let's keep this conversation going. You know, it's funny how life circles back sometimes. When we're young, we're told to find our purpose. But later in life, purpose often finds us in the quietest moments. That brings me to the fourth way to stay connected. Give back through volunteering. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, volunteering? At my age? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be exhausting or time-consuming. It's about sharing what you've learned over decades. And trust me, there's someone out there who needs exactly what you have to offer. Take my friend Harold, for example. At 75, he felt adrift after losing his wife. But then his granddaughter mentioned a local elementary school needing reading buddies. Harold wasn't sure. He'd never worked with kids, but he gave it a shot. Fast forward 6 months, and he's the most requested storytime grandpa in the school. Those kids light up when he walks in, and Harold says it's the highlight of his week. They keep me young, he laughs, and science backs him up. Volunteering regularly has been shown to lower stress, boost mood, and even improve memory. It's a win-win for your heart and your brain. Now, the fifth way. Embrace intergenerational connections. There's something magical about spending time with people who see the world through a different lens. Whether it's bonding with grandchildren, mentoring a young professional, or joining a community program that pairs seniors with teens, these relationships are like a breath of fresh air for your mind. Consider Ruth, an 81-year-old retired teacher. She joined a Tech Buddies program at her library, where seniors learn smartphones from teenagers. At first, Ruth was nervous. She thought the kids would find her slow. But instead, they loved her stories about teaching in the 1960s, and she loved their patience and humor. Now, they text each other memes and meet for milkshakes once a month. They remind me that curiosity doesn't retire, she says. And that's the beauty of it. Whether you're sharing skills, stories, or simply a meal, these connections stretch your mind in new directions. They challenge you to stay curious, to laugh at the unexpected, and to see the world with fresh eyes, all of which are like fertilizer for a healthy brain. So there we have it. 5 simple, heartfelt ways to stay connected and keep your brain thriving after 70. But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to tie it all together. You know, life after 70 can feel a lot like tending a garden. Some days, the blooms are vibrant and full, conversations that make you laugh, moments that make you feel seen. Other days, it might seem like the soil's a little dry, and you're not sure what to plant next. But here's what I've learned. Every seed of connection you sow, no matter how small, has the power to grow into something beautiful. We've talked about 5 ways to nurture that garden. Reaching out to old friends, finding your third place, dipping into technology, giving back through volunteering, and bridging generations. But what ties them all together? It's the simple truth that you matter. Your stories, your presence, your laughter. They're not just gifts to others. They're fuel for your own mind, your own spirit. Take my friend Edna, who turned 82 last month. She told me she'd spent years feeling invisible, like the world had moved on without her. But then she decided to try one thing from this list. She joined a walking group at her local park. At first, she worried she'd slow everyone down. But guess what? They walk at her pace. They talk about everything. Grandkids, old movies, even their aches and pains. Now, Edna says those walks are her weekly dose of joy. She's even planning a potluck with the group next week. Turns out, she told me, I wasn't invisible. I was just waiting for the right people to see me. That's the power of staying connected. It's not about doing it all or being the life of the party. It's about finding what feels right for you. A phone call here, a shared hobby there. Maybe it's reading to a child over Zoom or swapping gardening tips with a neighbor. Every little interaction is like a spark that keeps your brain humming, your heart open, and your days filled with purpose. So, if you take anything from our time together today, let it be this. You're never too old to grow, to learn, or to shine. Start small. Be kind to yourself. And remember, every time you reach out, even in the tiniest way, you're not just connecting with others. You're reminding yourself how vibrant, how capable, how alive you truly are. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you reconnected with an old friend recently? Found a new hobby that brought people into your life? Or maybe you've got a story about someone who inspired you to stay social? Share it in the comments below. Let's create a conversation as rich and varied as the lives we're all living. And if this resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our next chat, where we'll keep exploring ways to make these years some of your most fulfilling yet. Until then, keep planting those seeds. Keep saying yes to the moments that make you feel like you. Because the world needs your wisdom, your humor, and your light. Today, tomorrow, and every day after. Here's to living fully, connecting deeply, and writing the next chapter of your story on your own terms. Cheers, my friend.